Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars have done a full 180 this season. Jacksonville was 2-6 at one point, and it looked like Trevor Lawrence was on his way to another disappointing season. But over the Jaguars' last 6 games, Jacksonville looks like a playoff team and is right there in the mix to win the AFC South. But first, this video is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The only thing better than football Sundays is football Sundays with DraftKings Sportsbook. We're excited to be partnering with DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, to bring an unbelievable offer to all new customers. Want to win $150 in free bets? Well, all new customers need to do is sign up for DraftKings and use our code JDPROD and bet at least $5 on any pre-game moneyline wager, and if your bet hits, then that $150 in free bets is all yours. That's right, that's an additional $150 in free bets if your pre-game moneyline wager of $5 or more hits. Want to up the stakes even more? Try out same-game parlays where you can combine multiple bets, like which team will win or by how much, for a shot at even bigger winnings. If mobile sports betting isn't yet available in your state, don't worry, there's still a way to get in on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy or DraftKings Rainmakers. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw cash at any time. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use code JDPROD and bet $5 on any pregame moneyline wager and win $150 in free bets if your bet hits. That's promo code JDPROD only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL. Thanks again to DraftKings for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back to it. Trevor Lawrence came into this season with heightened expectations, and he was good at times, but disappointed plenty. It did look like early on that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be pretty good, but that wasn't the case through the first half of the year. Jacksonville narrowly lost in week 1 at Washington, and on the stat sheet, Trevor Lawrence didn't look amazing. 57.1 completion percentage for 275 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. However, Lawrence did look better than he had looked in his rookie season, in my opinion. It looked like he could maybe be on his way to a big breakout, and it definitely started to look like it in the next 2 weeks. The Jaguars won back-to-back against the Colts and then the Chargers to jump to 2-1, and in those 2 games, Lawrence passed for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns without throwing a single interception while completing 76.8% of his passes. Things were looking good for Lawrence in Jacksonville, but the Jaguars ended up losing their next 5 games, and Lawrence didn't play very well in them. Over the span, he passed for over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns to 5 interceptions while only completing 57.8% of his passes. After week 8, the Jaguars were 2-6, and Trevor Lawrence was well on his way to another disappointing season. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars have looked like a completely different team in their last 6 games, and Trevor Lawrence has looked like a truly elite quarterback. In the Jaguars' 2 games before their bye, Jacksonville beat the Raiders by a touchdown and put up a good fight against the Chiefs, but did ultimately lose by 10. What mattered, though, was that Lawrence played well and threw for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns without an interception while completing 76.1% of his passes in the 2 contests. Lawrence has been even better since the bye, and there have been some very impressive wins over the stretch. Jacksonville did get blasted by the Lions 40-14 in week 13, but Lawrence still didn't throw a pick in that game. The Jaguars went on to pick up an impressive win out of the bye, a 28-27 dub over the Ravens, and that was when Lamar Jackson was still healthy. Lawrence threw 3 touchdowns without a pick and did again 2 weeks later in a 36-22 win over the division rival Titans. I mean, I still think by far the most impressive victory was in week 15 over the Cowboys. It's no secret that Dallas is a good football team, although they can be very inconsistent at times. That was mostly the case on Sunday. Dallas led 27-10, but Jacksonville raced back and eventually took the lead in the 4th quarter before a Cowboys touchdown regained the lead. Jacksonville responded with a big drive of its own that ended with a 48-yard Riley Patterson field goal to force overtime. Usually, losing the coin toss is a kiss of death in overtime. Luckily for the Jaguars, they ended up winning the toss and got the ball first. Unlucky for the Jaguars, the offense went 3 and out and gave the ball to Dak Prescott, only needing a field goal to win the game. But Jacksonville still found a way. Trey Herndon tipped a pass and Rayshon Jenkins made a shoelace interception and took it 52 yards for a game-winning touchdown. A hell of a way to end a good game. The Jacksonville Jaguars were 2-6 after 8 weeks and well on their way to another disappointing season. But Trevor Lawrence and the Jags have turned it around. Now, Jacksonville is 6-8 and only one game behind the AFC South leading Titans. The Jaguars have a serious chance to win the division over Tennessee. There are only 3 weeks left in the season. The Jaguars face the Jets on Thursday Night Football, a huge game for the AFC playoff picture, by the way. The Jets are actually fighting for a wildcard spot of their own. And then in Week 17, the Jaguars visit the very bad Texans, whose only win of the year is against, you guessed it, the Jaguars. The Titans get the Texans at home in Week 16, but have to turn around and face the Cowboys. It's entirely possible that the AFC South crown comes down to a winner-take-all Week 18 matchup, the Titans at the Jaguars. It could be a very, very exciting end to the season in the AFC South. I'm extremely excited for that game, and if last season is any evidence of it, Jacksonville is pretty good at keeping people in their own division out of the playoffs. I think you have to give the Jacksonville Jaguars a lot of credit for the way they've built around Trevor Lawrence. He only had 2 wide receivers record over 500 yards as a rookie, Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. Fast forward to this year, and Jones is essentially the number 3 in Jacksonville after some big moves in the offseason. The Jaguars signed Christian Kirk to a 4-year, $72 million contract. Kirk is surely going to have the best season of his career and already has 73 receptions for 966 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's surely going to end 2022 with all career highs. Jacksonville also signed Zay Jones to a 3-year, $24 million deal. He has already set career highs in just about every single metric. Jones has 74 catches for 764 yards and 5 scores. I think maybe the biggest offseason move was signing guard Brandon Sheriff to a 3-year, $49.5 million contract. And let's not forget that Jacksonville did also give Cam Robinson a 3-year, $54 million extension. The Jaguars have 100% gone in on giving Trevor Lawrence the best pieces possible to succeed. One of the most exciting things about the Jacksonville Jaguars right now is that Calvin Ridley isn't even back yet. The Jaguars offense looks like it's figured things out, and there's no doubt that Jacksonville is going to get even better once Ridley returns from his suspension. The Jags were a surprising player at the trade deadline, but Jacksonville traded a 4th and 5th to the Falcons for Calvin Ridley. Honestly, I love that move. I think Calvin Ridley can be the true number 1 that Lawrence needs. He's a very talented wide receiver, but it still might take some time for him to get back to full speed once he does apply for reinstatement. We haven't really seen Ridley play since 2020. Obviously, he was suspended all of this season for betting on games, and he didn't really play much of 2021 after taking a leave for his mental health. Ridley showed some amazing flashes at times though. He had over 800 yards in each of his first 2 years in the pros and turned around and broke out with over 1,300 yards in 2020. Calvin Ridley literally just turned 28 years old and could be a huge asset for the Jaguars offense next season. Trevor Lawrence couldn't have had a much worse rookie year. It was a complete disaster. He had to deal with the mess that was Urban Meyer being his head coach. Meyer was caught with a woman that was not his wife, reportedly kicked Josh Lambo during warm-ups, and players and coaches were very critical of the way Meyer treated them. He was fired after only 13 games with a 2-11 record. It was toxic and a complete dumpster fire, and it really could have destroyed his development. Lawrence started in every game for the Jaguars and passed for over 3,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions while completing 59.6% of his passes. Of 38 qualifiers in 2021, Lawrence finished 33rd. His adjusted completion percentage was 72.4%, a huge difference from his real percentage, but he did have a 9.3 drop percentage, tied for the 3rd highest in the league. I've been very impressed with Trevor Lawrence over the past month or so, and it's something to be excited about. It's no secret how amazing of a prospect he was, and for a while there, it wasn't looking great for his future. We made a video in November about Trevor Lawrence, using the label a generational bust, citing that Trevor Lawrence was this amazing prospect that had generational talent, but could end up going down the path of being a bust. that was because of the bad situations he was put in. One of the biggest changes from last season to this season has been coaching. Urban Meyer was a complete failure in the pros, and Jacksonville decided to hire Doug Peterson to be its next head coach. Doug Peterson was far from a flashy hire, but has brought the stability that Trevor Lawrence needed. Add that to the Jaguars surrounding Lawrence with talent, and here we are. Trevor Lawrence is showing his elite talent we all knew he had, and suddenly, the Jaguars are good.